Good morning. This morning in my devotion, my reading, I was reading in Acts chapter 2 for my New Testament portion, and which is the famous Pentecost, uh, passage. And this morning I was struck by one biblical leadership principle that I wanted to share with everyone today. So in Acts chapter 2, when the Holy Spirit descends upon the disciples and they all start speaking in tongues, it says flames of fire appear over their head, which is to symbolize, the presence of God was now resting on them. In the Old Testament, when they had constructed the temple or they built the tabernacle, a flame of fire, a pillar of fire would descend upon the tabernacle and the temple when they built those for the Lord, and it was a symbol of the presence of God. That pillar of fire resting. And here, when the Holy Spirit comes in and fills all the disciples, it says a flame of fire appears over their head, representing the presence of God was now resting within them rather than in a temple or a tabernacle. We now are the temple, and so the Holy Spirit, the presence of God is now resting in us. And the disciples start speaking in tongues. And it says that basically that there was confusion amongst the people. The disciples are speaking in other languages, and the people don't understand. It says they were amazed and perplexed, saying to one another, "What does this mean?" But others mocked and said, "They are filled with new wine." So they thought, something weird is going on. They didn't know how to explain it, so they just said, "Oh, well, they're drunk," basically. But then Peter steps up to the plate. He says, "But Peter, standing with the 11, lifted up his voice and addressed them, 'Men of Judea, and all who dwell in Jerusalem, let this be known to you. Give ear to my words, for these people are not drunk, as you suppose, since it is only the third hour of the day. But this is what was uttered through the prophet Joel.'" And then Peter goes on to preach his message, which is a powerful message, and he in it, the result of that message is 3,000 people get saved. 3,000 people are added to the church and are baptized. Now, the principle that I want to pull from this was the power of effective communication, and how, as leaders, as biblical leaders, it's important for us to bring clarity to confusion through effective communication. So in this passage, there's confusion. People aren't sure what's happening, what's going on, and Peter sees it as an opportunity, and he communicates clearly. He communicates effectively with authority and power, by the Holy Spirit. And in doing that, it brings clarity to the situation, and people come to know God as a result. And so let it be a challenge for us as biblical leaders to bring clarity to confusion through effective communication, relying on the Holy Spirit to help us, in our communication. But anytime we see confusion, amongst the people or amongst our followers, it's important to communicate clearly what's going on, whatever the situation, so that instead of confusion, clarity is brought, peace is brought, truth is brought, and as a result, hopefully we will see great fruit. So there's the principle for today. Let's strive to be the best communicators that we can be, so that we can bring clarity and truth to confusion.